We identified that we still do have some seats available, that we could actually still continue to serve some students if there was additional interest at this point. This is an organizational chart, and I'll try to explain it the best that I can. But as we're looking at the On Track to Thrive 2025, what does this look like? Dr. Bailey is really going to be our lead administrator in supporting our virtual middle school and high school students. And this really actually works very nicely just because they are currently serving virtual middle school and high school students, 8th grade and 9th grade in that cohort. The academic Gear Up academic coaches are actually providing tutoring services to students and seeing a lot of success from their ability to do that as they work with the students, making sure that they are able to get the support that they need to complete their classes and actually pass their classes. So that's been a real positive benefit to having them all under one administrator. We also are looking at the location of 3025 College Street, which was previously the principal building, as their home. So this is where the Gear Up staff will be their home base, although they will have bases in three middle schools and the high school as well. But we were going to look at housing the College and Career Achievement Center home base at this location. It also opens up the opportunity that when you do have virtual students that really are concerned, maybe there's some health issues or they're concerned about going to the schools for additional support, they can come to this location and actually can get the one-on-one support that they need without having to work through crowds or go through the school or things like that. So it gives them a home base as well to come and get that support. So for virtual, we are looking at hiring, we're going to propose to hire a math, ELA, and a science teacher for core instruction for middle school. That was one thing that the students and the teachers said is so important for our middle school students, is to have that live instruction through Zoom for those core classes. And then their Explore classes would actually be more asynchronous, so we would use an online platform like Edmentum in order to choose their Explore classes. And one thing that we've done is aligned their Explore classes, what are the required courses, and then what are some options that they can choose from, actually giving them some alternative choices that our current middle school students on site don't have. So that's kind of exciting. Our virtual, the high school, we're looking at hiring 2 certified teachers. The difference in the instruction is this is really going to be more of a facilitated position as a teacher. They're going to facilitate, they're going to have actual home rooms of students, and they're going to help facilitate their coursework. So they're going to work with them, identify what their plan is going to look like and their coursework, and actually they will be there and support the students on a daily basis as they work through their courses to stay on track for graduation. So the rest of this, over to the right, is just the Gear Up, additional Gear Up. If we are actually going to be applying for additional funding, and if it approved, we would get that in October, which would allow us to add additional support staff through the Gear Up funds in order to support college and career readiness by starting a new cohort at the middle school level. So there's lots of good things that could be happening here in the future. Let's see. So the leadership structure, Dr. Bailey is going to supervise all the 612 virtual operations. This is going to really help streamline the decision-making. Instead of having a principal at each of the middle schools, we have one person for parents, students, and teachers to actually go to for that support. These students actually will be tied to their home building, however, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. We will continue the Gear Up supports for 8th and 9th grade on-site and virtual, so they will be that support for both students that are virtual and on-site. I mentioned the grant application, the maintain the focus on college and career readiness as we think about that through line from 6 through 12. That's often been, a concern, is how do we make sure that those transitions are happening smoothly. This will really help us develop a smooth transition for our virtual students if they remain virtual. And we will have dedicated specialists. So students that are currently in programs, EL programs or special education programs, will continue to receive some direct services from our specialist. So we'll have people assigned. Students will stay attached to their home school just to have that connection to extracurricular activities. So one thing our middle school students and our high schools is doing for us is actually making a list of all the different activities that students can participate in before or after school, where they wouldn't have to actually be in the building on site during the day to participate. So if a student wants to play basketball and they're a Walnut student, they can play basketball with their Walnut friends after school and participate in those activities. And that really just, as we really thought through this option, if a student or a family decides that they want to go back on site the next year, they're still connected to their friends and to that building and can remain and maintain those relationships. And so we want to make sure that we give them that seamless option. However, most of the time, they're really not going to have a connection with that homeschool outside of the activities. Attendance lunch count will continue to do that. Supports will all flow through the Career and College Achievement Center for any additional tutoring or additional support that they need. The request is, which I'll talk about later, is using SR2 dollars to actually fund the positions. And once the positions are approved, we will post those positions and start hiring some staff. And we do have some staff that actually have expressed interest, which is exciting. The other thing that we thought was very important about having the location in one place for all 612 is for families to also be able to go and receive additional family education. The Gear Up offers all kinds of programs for families, financial literacy, they'll do parent classes, things like that. So there's always that opportunity for parents to come on site without having to go to an actual school building in order to get that support. So 6 through 8 middle school students will participate in core classes, direct instruction. Like I said, they'll be facilitated explore classes through Amendment Explore classes, or things like their financial literacy, their health education classes. They'll also art. I mean, there are just different classes that they can take, and those are all offered through the online platform Admentum. And then with 9 through 12, we really talk through making sure that we are creating those opportunities for students to still fulfill a pathway as part of the graduate profile, or develop or enhance a new pathway that aligns with their specific interest. So one of the examples that we've been talking about is with the medical pathway. You know, telehealth is big out there, right? So this could be a pathway that we could design for students that are 9 through 12 that want to continue to stay in the medical pathway. Is maybe we can work towards that telehealth, some certifications, and gear them towards a telehealth career. So we want to make sure that we maintain that opportunity for students to graduate with certifications and with through a pathway. And then another opportunity is we could develop a new pathway. Dr. Bailey's working with different higher ed organizations and seeking out just what are those other opportunities where students actually would be able to join a workforce and work virtually in a high-demand, high-paying, high-skilled job. So those are pretty exciting future opportunities for our kids. So announcements to families, we have letters that are ready to go to just solidify the registration, and then communicate about what are those opportunities, be proactive with that. What do you want your child to be involved in? Let's set up their schedule. And then Dr. Bailey will work in collaboration with the principals to make sure that the student experience is outlined and that the staff and responsibilities are created. And the requests that occur within the school year will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. Right now, we're really asking parents to commit for the year. We know that there will be unique and circumstances that come up, but we want to maintain a continuity of learning for our students and make sure that our programming is really designed personally for them. And having students coming in and out throughout the year would be somewhat of a disruption, so we want to make sure and keep that continuity of learning going. So that, I guess I just mentioned that piece. Talked about the before and after school times. students will have access to meals through the Neal building. That was a question that came up. Chris Bellman and her team have been amazing, just making sure that we are continuing to provide those opportunities for our families to get meals. So we'll continue to offer those. And I think that's the end of the overview.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this virtual school for middle and high school? Mrs. Juergens.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate that you were able to put this together with your team, because I know I've personally heard from parents that were really hopeful that there would be a virtual option for 6 through 12 students who do take very nicely to that type of programming. So like I said, I just personally have heard some nice reports about that. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Dr. Dahl really actually met directly with parents and got some information from them about what do you want that experience for your child to look like. And that was really helpful in informing, the decisions that we made as well. So we definitely want to make sure that we're thinking about those needs.
All right, Dr. Burrows.
Maybe you've covered this and, kind of flew in and out of my head. Edmentum, is that a contracted service? Is it a pay to participate? Help me understand how that works.
Yeah, it's currently the online platform that we use at Success Academy for courses. So the teachers facilitate it. The students actually work through it on their own. They work through the course on their own, but they can set it up for opportunities where kids are taking assessment and the teachers are actually talking with the students and debriefing and helping them study and things like that. But it's an opportunity for kids to work through a lot of it on their own. Yeah, but it's something we already have in place.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much. We appreciate you bringing that back to us.
You're welcome.
All right, so we're going to move to 9.4, which is the non-binding letter of intent with the St. Francis Medical Center and Grand Island Public Schools. Dr. Dexter.
This has been a real work in progress, and we've met weekly on Tuesdays to develop the non-binding letter of intent with St. Francis Medical Center and Grand Island Public Schools for the medical pathways. And so I'll just kind of walk you through some of the highlights of this. If you look at on the premises, number 3, that portion of the building constituting the entire 8th floor, except for common areas, consisting of approximately 24,450 rentable square feet. And we kind of went back and forth on that, but finally landed on the 1,450 feet that is the rentable square feet, the premises. And then if you go on to number 6, the term is 15 years commencing on the rent commencement date, 15 years plus 5-year renewal. And so it will be a 20-year lease, renewable after the 15 years. And then on number 10, we just wanted to make sure that St. Francis was in charge of snow removal, that we wouldn't have to bring our own people up to do that, and that operating expenses for an acute care setting would typically exceed 61 cents to 66 cents per square feet. So we landed on base rent and the 46 cents per rentable square foot for utilities, and increasing 3% annually. And then on number 15, down at the very bottom, GIPS Foundation will hold funds unless the donor or funding source designates the hospital foundation to hold the funds. So that was all worked out in the LOI. And then parking on number 21. And premises shall be located on the St. Francis Medical Center campus. We will be constructing the parking lot, and the specific number of parking stalls will be determined based on tenants' need and subject to availability. So just to really make sure our students aren't parking on the street, we needed the extra parking space. And then another important piece is on number 23, the agreement forms. And this was language that Roger Steele helped us with In the event the lease agreement is terminated solely as a result of CHI Health's breach of CHI shall reimburse tenant for the unamortized cost of tenant improvements. So if they would solely want to get out of the agreement, they would have to pay us what it cost us to put in the medical pathways at the time it was put in. And so those were the key sticking points. Once this is signed, several of our donors and some of our big funders really need the LOI to be able to move forward with giving us the funds. So we really need the LOI in place. So we are asking this to be an info action item tonight on the agenda. Questions?
All right, so does anybody have any questions? Mrs. Albers?
I just want to say thank you for sticking with this. And Dr. Grover, same thing. This was, I know, a labor of love / frustration, and I appreciate everyone not taking no for an answer. So just thank you very much.
And Tracy Skalberg's leadership on this team has just been awesome.
Oh, good. Glad to hear that. Dr. Brose?
And I'd like to thank everybody for taking time to look at an epistle of questions that I sent you. And we sat down and had those answered this afternoon, so thank you very much. One thing I would like to see at some point is that we lay out the entire medical pathway, what it's going to look like, what it's going to cost, all the associated fees, wrapped up in a nice, neat little package and brought before the board so that the public at some point can see what this is all going to look like. We have been working on bits and pieces like this, and it's been a concept, work in progress for over a year and a half, maybe 2 years now. I know Lisa and I were part of an initial meeting with CHI on the 8th floor where there was absolutely nothing when we were having the meeting there. Anyway, if we could just put the whole package together so the public can see what it's going to look like from beginning to end with all the financial information, I just think it would help. In the name of total transparency, it's not that we aren't being transparent. It's just that a big presentation with all of it will help everybody understand what it's ultimately going to look like and what it's going to cost.
Excellent.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
I'm still
Appreciate
up
that.
here.
All right, and are you up next with the
Yes.
transportation contract?
I am.
Okay.
And this will be first read tonight with final read in June. And so we did go through the process of a request for a proposal, and we had 2 requests, and Holiday Express Company was awarded the 5-year contract. The agreement will commence on August 1st, 2021 and terminate on July 31st, 2026. And it will go for 171 calendar days each of those years. And then negotiation for future years, we will every year negotiate the cost of providing transportation. We are still in negotiations because of the Holiday Travel bought the minibuses. So there will be an increase from last year because of that. And then we're just still trying to work out the details on what that increase will be.
Sure.
And that we'll have that ready for you in June.
Okay. All right, does anybody have any questions or comments about this contract? Nope. All right, thank you. All right, 9.6 is the second step K-8 counseling curriculum, and again, Dr. Dexter.
Yes, and this is here for you for information and action. And we currently use second step curriculum K-8. Middle school is all online. Elementary has been kind of kits, and so there's a lot of paper, and then some access to some online support. And so using ESSER funds, we wanted to renew this contract for 3 years and add the online component for K-5. Mr. Bishop is really going to help us try to incorporate the second step curriculum into the gen ed classrooms, not just the counseling curriculum. And so that, you know, the kids get to hear it, see it, model it, do it throughout their day. So information and action, and again, it will be paid for out of ESSER funds.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments? No? Okay, thank you. And you're on a roll. The approval Title I funds for reading. Oh, I guess we get a different speaker. I'm sorry. Dr. Bills and Ms. Crow. Thank you.
I always have a hard time finding the. All right, good evening. Dr. Grover, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight about a proposal for Title I reading interventionists. Just a little background to kind of get us started here and set the stage. Reading research now estimates that anywhere from 90 to 95% of students are cognitively capable of reading at grade level when they're provided with sufficient evidence-based reading instruction. So I just want you to keep that number in your mind as we progress through the presentation here. This data you have seen before. This is our fall kindergarten data. And you can see from this data that the majority of our kindergarten students are entering our schools on day one significantly at risk for reading difficulties. As a district, I'm really grateful for all of the support that you've given us around improving our Tier 1 instruction. With your support, we have been able to provide our teachers with high-quality instructional materials, with ongoing professional development through the LETRS training, and with job-embedded coaching. It is often stated that you cannot intervene yourself out of poor Tier 1 instruction. And I stand here proud today to share with you that we are currently, with Tier 1 instruction alone, sustaining 98% of our students who are at or above benchmark. That is above the threshold of 95%, which indicates that your core instruction is healthy. Our first year implementing CKLA skills was highly successful. It was a great learning year for us. And I look forward to the opportunity to refine our practice and improve upon this as we move forward in years to come. So the counter to that then is our teachers beginning the school year with data like this, right? So when we have a significant number of students who enter our school systems in need of targeted and intensive supports, our teachers have to make decisions around how they support those students, right? So we have 30 minutes built into our schedule right now where our teachers are able to provide our students with interventions to support their needs. And when you have this many students who have significant needs for intervention, you have to make decisions about how you're going to group kids, right? How much time they're going to get, how much opportunity they're going to get, how many days of instruction they're going to get. And you know, our teachers have to make difficult decisions to make group sizes larger than they'd like to make, right? They have to make difficult decisions around not being able to be as targeted in some of the skills that they would like to address, which in a sense leads us to watering down the interventions that we're able to provide these students. It might not seem like these decisions would make such a huge impact on our students, and so I want to illustrate to you just what it would do for a student when we look at having to reduce the number of days or opportunities that they would have to be in an intervention. So I'm going to illustrate with you, it's the same intervention materials, okay? But if I'm a teacher who has a significant number of students who have needs, I might have to choose to give students 2 days of intervention versus 5, right? So on and so forth. So you're going to see the impact that the number of days of instruction has over a 10-week period of time. So if I'm a student getting this intervention, at the end of 10 weeks, getting 2 lessons a day, this would be the type of material that I would be reading, okay? Now, if my teacher were able to give me 3 lessons a day over that 10-week period of time, this is where I would be at the end of that 10 weeks. If my teacher's able to give me a lesson every day in that 10-week period of time, this would be the material that I would be working with as a student at that point in time. This really illustrates to you the significant difference in sheer opportunity that kids can have when we have to make decisions about reducing the number of days that our students are given intervention. It is a well-known fact that there are neurological differences in the brains of individuals who are susceptible to reading difficulties in comparison to children who are typical readers. Fascinatingly enough, we've actually started studying those neurological differences in infants. And researchers have been able to find that neurological difference in infants as young as 4 months old, which means that our students are entering kindergarten with less than optimal brain development for reading, right? We have great quality Tier 1 instruction. We have the data to support that. But the reality of it is that alone is not going to be sufficient to reach that 90 to 95% for those students entering our system with those neurological differences. Sorry, I skipped ahead a little bit here. So we did have the opportunity to actually pilot this program this year at Westlawn Elementary and Wasmer Elementary. They got a reading specialist about mid-year. Wasmer's was a little bit later than Westlawn's. And in this process, I worked very closely with the instructional coach at both buildings and the interventionists. We really intentionally looked at our data, grouped our students, dug deeply into the data to identify specific skills that needed to be targeted. We precisely targeted interventions to those students. We're able to give frequent progress monitoring, which was both the DIBELS progress monitoring that our teachers do, but we also did regular ongoing formative assessment to make sure that we were getting the skills that we needed to get. Every 4 weeks, I met with those individuals to review the data and ensure that our students were making the progress that we wanted them to make, and ensure if we needed to make changes, we were making them frequently and regularly. It was also an all-hands-on-deck approach. We really took all of the students, organized them really nicely based on their needs, and through that process, we were able to give all of our students opportunities with teachers targeting their specific needs. So even our students who, are at or above benchmark had more opportunities for their learning to be extended, which was nice as well. So you can see here from the data just the brief period of time that we were able to implement a reading interventionist, the impact that it had on our students. We really want to reach for 80% of our students in those red and yellow bands moving a color band. So we were approaching that. We didn't quite reach that, and I'm confident given a year with a reading interventionist, we would be able to make that happen.
Good evening. As the District Title I coordinator, I'm just really here to talk about the details of our proposal and the funding source. So based on the information just shared by Dr. Bills regarding the importance of frequent, high-quality intervention, based on our data from our Title I buildings, our work with DMG on aligning budgets to district priorities, and the success of the pilot programs at Wasmer and Westlawn, we are proposing that we utilize an equity formula developed by Dr. Bills as the basis for hiring 4.5 FTE out of Title I funds for Title I reading interventionists. These interventionists would work directly with K-3 students, demonstrating the most significant needs as determined by their DIBELS data. And we would evaluate that continued need for these FTE annually based on, again, that equity formula. So the fiscal responsibility would be an annual cost of approximately $306,000 in salary and $61,200 in benefits that would come from the Title I budget, and this money has been made available because we moved the Title I specialists out of the Title I budget into ESSER funds. So that's what has made these available for these positions. So thank you for considering our proposal as we continue to work towards our mission of every student, every day a reader, and our vision of breaking the cycle of illiteracy for our students. And if you had any questions at this time, we'd be happy to try to answer.
All right, Mr. Helinski.
How is this going to fit in with those students that are going to be at home with the online education? I mean, are they going to have special Zoom meetings with these students, or how is that all going to come together?
Well, it's Title I funding, so it would just be for buildings that have Title I funds, and the virtual school is associated. Is that the question that you're asking?
Correct.
The virtual school is, their home school is Stolly Park, which is not a Title I building. So they would not be served with the reading specialist, since it is appropriated for just the title buildings.
Okay, any other questions? No. And so, just to remind us again, the ESSER funds, we have more than just 1 year to use them, right? So this is why it'll cover it for, is it 3 years, or?
Well, these can be paid for indefinitely out of Title I.
Okay.
It's that they were made available by moving the Title I specialists out of our budget. So,
Got it.
and they will have 3 years at least, I believe,
Okay.
before they have to be accounted for somewhere else.
Got it, okay, thank you. Any other questions? Nope, all right, thank you. We appreciate your time tonight. Okay, 9.8 is the request approval of ESSER II funds to hire virtual school staff to support K through 12 programming. Dr. Palmer.
Okay, I'm back again. You should have an actual attachment with the needs analysis. Yep. And since I gave you the presentation a few minutes ago of kind of the outline of the virtual 612 model, this proposal does include positions, a request for funds for virtual school K-12 positions. And so what we're requesting to use ESSER funds is to hire the 3 middle school and the 2 high school certified teachers. We are also looking to hire a K-8 EL teacher, as Dr. Levas and Renee Engel, the directors and the coordinators for our EL and our special education programs, they have been highly involved in this process and collaborating with us, looking at who are the students, what are the needs, where are our staff, and how can they get the services. And we've identified that there would be a need for an additional EL teacher. And we also are asking for a K-8 counselor to teach and support second step curriculum. Part of the elementary program, obviously, that they have actual ongoing live sessions of counseling with second step. There are some challenges if we continue to try to share staff that are on site and also trying to teach virtual, so felt like this would be a better avenue. Plus, they can also support some of the social emotional needs of those students in small groups and things like that, as well as the 6 through 8 and having that separate counselor that's really dedicated to our virtual students. They're actually going to have every morning an opportunity just to do social emotional learning before their day actually gets started for our 6th through 8th grade students. And then we're looking for a certified teacher, special education, to serve our medically fragile students. They definitely have a little bit different programming and need some one-on-one supports for the families to make sure that they're getting the instruction that they need as well. And then one of the things that we've noticed with virtual school is we currently have a secretary with Mrs. Flower, and this secretary has really close relationships with the families, and she's bilingual and really can have that ongoing communication. We've recognized that this need is going to continue given the number of bilingual families or families that don't speak English, to support the families and actually serve also as a resource to them to help dedicate and support them with finding the resources, the communication, and making sure that they are connected with school. And so we are looking to hire a K-5 family liaison, which would be a classified position at this point, someone who has bilingual skills and could support that, that communication and that connection for families. And the fiscal impact is not to exceed, total salary and benefits, $855,240. Our details, just the ability to fund the virtual school, grade 6-12, and support our students in specialized programs. Obviously, this is dependent upon your approval during action items later in this, in the meeting. And with that, I will answer any additional questions.
Okay, does anybody have any questions about this? All right, thank you very much. Okay, 9.9 is the Cannon, Mossberger and Associates contract. Mr. Petch.
Thank you, Mrs. Hinkle. So this is for the medical pathway. This is a contract. We do this every project. It's based off of the master contract. I can go through all 25 pages if you like, but I'd recommend to just pull down to page 20, which really talks about the percentage that would be applied. So the process there is we establish a percentage off of the schedule on page 24. And so they apply that to what the total cost of the project is going to be once it is bid out. And so that's kind of how that works. I've reviewed that. We're within line of, you know, kind of our usual parameters of what we think the total cost of that project's going to be. Bringing this to you for just information this month and action next month. Dr. Dexter did talk a little bit about our memorandum of understanding, which seems to be moving forward. And we must move forward with our design professionals so that we can actually make our completion date, because we've got quite a bit of design still to do with the project, as well as you know, getting the construction part of it done. So don't know if there's any questions from that. If there are, I'm happy to answer those.
Any questions or comments? Seems pretty standard. All right, so 9.10 is the Engineering Technologies Incorporated Memorandum of Understanding, also Mr. Petch.
Yep, so this is our other set of designers that do the mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Again, really the same structure as far as percentages go. Theirs is just a one sheet, but it also, again, applies back to our master contract on the percentage. They charge their percentage off of the total cost of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing activities that take place on the project. So that's really the only difference. With them, it's a memorandum of understanding. That's been our standard operating procedure, you know, since we've established the master contract. Again, I've reviewed that the schedule and would recommend the percentage they've got on there. Now, I would tell you that once we actually open bids, we know what our actual costs are going to be. Those percentages can, you know, move a few ticks one way or another. Just depends on, you know, how much our actual bid ends up being. Although I think we're pretty in line that these percentages will be mostly accurate. So.
Okay. Any questions or comments? All right. Okay, well then we're going to move into information item 9.11, which is the construction update, Mr. Petch.
And just touch base on the ELC, still moving forward. Just, you know, you've probably heard, you know, news that different things are going up in costs and having a hard time. You know, we're having difficulty with metal products, although the good thing on this project, most of that's all taken care of. We've got our walls up, we're painted, we're doing ceilings, started the rubber floor, it came in. So not feeling a lot of stress on this whole situation impacting this project, but I reserve the right to be stressed out as we move into summer. So. No, it's coming together. We're pretty close on schedule. We had a construction meeting earlier this week, And so, besides a few bits and pieces that, for finishes that they've been working on trying to get and vendors not being able to get it, nothing that is surprising us, and so we're thinking we're gonna get done on time. We did also meet with our designers and had some conversations about the medical pathway project, just because we've really got to start those conversations and talk to a few teachers with just our information gathering, and so that's going well. With that, I'll conclude and I'll answer any questions you might have.
Okay, anybody have any questions about any construction projects or anything? Mrs. Jurgens?
Yes, I'm just curious if we'll have an opportunity to tour the finished product of the ELC building. We came during mid-construction. I don't know protocol on that, so.
Well, typically what we do is we'll have a grand opening, and we'd like to get everyone to there at that point, because then we'll have moved in, have all our furniture in place, and it usually take place after we've got it back into school, permitting that everything goes right, right? And we really want to show it off, because it is going to be fabulous. We're real excited about it. It's the ELC, like all of our other buildings, have a few things that have a little bit of wow factor, and we usually do that at the entrance. So the rubber floor will have the ELC logo in it, and then we've got some other colors and things that you'll see on the entrance. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Safe to say it's not going to look like a Shopko any longer.
It will not look like a Shopko any longer, no. Yeah. And the outside of the building will have a little bit of transformation too, between the sign that we'll put up, that's Grand Island Public Schools, and it's the Ray O'Connor Early Learning Center, and bring some color in so that it definitely does not have it's still got a little bit of a tan color on a piece of it, but we'll change that up. The entrance has some blue metal, and it'll be very nice.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Nope. All right, so we thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will move on to 9.12, which is the superintendent report. Dr. Grover.
Yes, thank you so much, Madam President. First of all, I just want to acknowledge all of our teachers and our staff members. We've heard a lot about this, but since this is our official May board meeting, when we started school in August, we really didn't know what May would look like. I remember being on the town hall meeting and Teresa Anderson saying, "We're just trying to get you to November." And I said, "No, we're trying to go to May." And I just think that, we have, as part of our instructional model in Grand Island Public Schools, we put our target up every day, and that is the target that we aim for. And so I just want to thank the Board of Education for your support as we've been aiming to keep our kids in school safely all year long. And that really is a tremendous kudos to the pandemic team. They are under a lot of pressure, stress, research, dedicate a lot of time to this every single day outside of their normal job responsibilities. And so just want to certainly thank the team. And again, just thank you to our staff. And as was recognized here tonight on behalf of our nurses and other people, you can see all the effort. And just think about all the things that you saw tonight is just a glimpse of what's been happening in our schools all year long, that we've been focused on student learning and just giving them the opportunity to continue to thrive. And it just was remarkable to watch, as well as a good feeling to have them back here in the boardroom. I do want to give a COVID-19 update. We did send out a communication last night to our parents, just kind of letting people know we just have, 6 days, I'm just trying to keep up with it, left in school. So we're going to complete the year with our current COVID protocols. We also will be releasing our summer protocols, and we are going to begin to relax some of the protocols, particularly outside, and that's going to be outlined. We also will have protocols with visitors to follow if they come, to the campus and so forth. So you'll see some of the transitioning happening in our summer program. This is important to us because we will also be monitoring and collecting data through our summer programs too. That's going to also help kind of guide our decision as we move forward to the fall. We know that there's a lot of information that's coming out, and that is the biggest question. As a matter of fact, we probably welcome the question. Last year, the question was whether or not do we open schools. Now the question is, how do we open them with fewer restrictions? And that really is going to require us to continue to be thought partners with our medical officials and really try to learn what that looks like. There's still quite a bit of concern for continuing to wear masks in certain situations, as well as concerns for students. At the same time, there's a unique opportunity of what the vaccine offers. And so, but we know we have to get our adult community has to be vaccinated, as well as now the availability for vaccines for students down to age 12. And so we're going to be working during the summer with Central District Health Department to provide access and opportunity for that. Of course, we're learning more about the vaccine being available later in the fall for younger children. And so all of that comes into play in terms of when and how to do certain things. So today we were on a call with other health officials from across the state, and again, raising all of these questions. So there's still just a lot of time in between now and August. But we have kind of put a mark out there, August the 1st. If we work like we did last year, I think we were able to get information out sooner, but it's very fluid. I feel like I'm starting all over again saying this is a very fluid situation. It changes very quickly. But I can assure you that we're going to be diligent in our efforts, and our goal is to have a safe learning environment for our students. They work so hard, and we're just like everybody else. We're ready to get to that new normal, whatever it is, but we have to do it safely, and that is our goal. We will continue to engage with our families, our community, just like we asked questions last time. We'll continue to ask questions where appropriate. We will continue to be transparent. We will communicate as we go. We will work together on behalf of our students to move forward toward the fall. But I am going to put out an ask, just like we had to call on our community to help us get through this year. We're calling on the community once again. If the key really is the vaccine, then we have to step up as a community to answer that call. If that plays a role in how we move forward to the fall, whether it's adults or students, then if that is the right and appropriate decision that we can make to be a contributor to increasing those numbers on behalf of the overall student body, then we want to be able to do that. We have to take into account the safety of our students while they're with us, and also the safety when they go back home to their families. So indeed, moving forward, I think it's a family affair for all of us in the Grand Island Public Schools and the Grand Island community, and we will keep those conversations going. I also want to just give you a quick update on staffing. I know that's always something that we're very much interested in during this time. We have 54 certified contracts that have been issued for the upcoming school year. We have about 25 vacancies that are left. And so Mr. Stelke kind of lets us know that we still have some of those hard to fill areas, such as ELA and math and special education, but we're working hard on that. Also, we had 10 administrative vacancies this year, but thanks to the HR department, everybody working so hard, 9 have been filled. And so we will continue to work on that last one, and I bet that's Mr. Stelk's position itself. I guess I've been a holdout there. So we're gonna be looking to see how that moves forward. Also, you heard about graduation, and so we're looking forward to our graduation. We know that that's going to be a very special experience for our students, and again, congratulations to Kendall, as well as Mrs. Aber. Her daughter is graduating this year, and so that's exciting. And then just my last announcement, tomorrow, May 14th, is School PR Communicators Day. And I want to be the first one to thank our PR and communications department. I think we all should. Sometimes they are all behind the scenes. They're helping to promote, and we know how critical communication is. And let me just tell you, we are very blessed with the folks that we have day in, day out in our communications department. So find a way to thank them. Tomorrow, May 14th, is their day, and we just want to help celebrate all that they do to showcase the pride of our students and all the achievements of everyone here in Grand Island Public Schools. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Ooh, appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move into action items. 10.1 is the contract from Policy Studies Associates for Strategic Plan. Mrs. Worthington. Thank you. We presented this last month to you, and the documents you see attached are exactly the same ones that were there last month. When I spoke to Finance and Facilities Committee this month, I misspoke. I told them there'd been a slight change after we presented it, but we actually got that changed ahead of time. So what you're looking at is exactly what we shared in the first place. And what we're asking for is approval to sign the contract for a base price of $37,000 and allow administration up to $45,000 for some of those optional items that are in the scope of work that you see listed. Okay. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Any questions? Mr. Brown?
I would move to approve the Policy Studies Associates for Strategic Plan contract as presented.
And is there a second? Second, Dr. Bros. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes. Thank you. 10.2 is the second step K-8 counseling curriculum that we heard about earlier from Dr. Dexter. Did anyone think of any questions in between time? Or Dr. Dexter, did you have anything else you wanted to share with us? Okay. Not, I entertain a motion. Mrs. Albertson?
Approve second step curriculum to support social emotional learning in grades K through 8.
And is there a second? Second, Mr. Hulinski. Any discussion? Please vote. Okay, motion passes. 10.3 is the non-binding letter of intent, St. Francis Medical Center and GIPS, which again, we heard about earlier tonight, and Facility and Finance also had some discussion on it as well. Does anybody have any additional questions? Dr. Bros.
I just want to clarify, this is not a lease at this point, correct?
Right.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Brown?
I would move to authorize the board president to sign as the representative for GIPS to accept the GIPS/CHI letter of intent.
And is there a second? Second, Mrs. Albers. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes. All right, 10.4 is the approve Title I funds for reading interventionists, Ms. Crow and Dr. Bills. Anything that you forgot to mention that you want to mention now? Nope. All right, did anybody think of any questions for them since we last heard from them? Nope. All right. Ms. Wolf.
I motion to approve the requested Title I funds to hire reading interventionist as defined by the equity formula and attached needs analysis.
And is there a second? Second, Mrs. Albers. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And item number 10 is the request approval of ESSER 2 funds to hire virtual school staff to support K through 12 programming. Dr. Palmer, anything else you needed to tell us?
I don't believe so.
All right, and anybody have any questions? All right, so then I'd need a motion. Mrs. Albers?
Approve the funds to hire the staff for the K through 12 virtual school as proposed in the request.
And is there a second? Second, Mr. Hawley. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we're going to, excuse me, we're going to move on to committee reports, starting with Finance and Facility Committee. Mr. Brown.
Thank you. I'll be reporting from minutes from May 4th. We did have 3 proposals that we looked at, construction technologies, the senior high science room renovations, and the house demos. We did get an update on nutrition services. Basically, the staff numbers keep dwindling, and concerns about rehiring as well. And we do have an RFP for food and supplies that will be brought to us in the June meeting. IT, we just got an update on IT as well from the infrastructure at the principal building and also the 4G network. We reviewed all of our typical funds. I won't go through all of those. We did have, there was a tune it in, gear up process that Mr. Phillips informed us about. It's part of the curriculum. We did hear about the Title I interventionist positions that we heard this evening, and the transportation RFQ, as Dr. Dexter has let us know. Did get an update on the ESSER Fund 2 spending that, again, we just heard some about. Did have quite a lot of discussion on the medical pathways agreement. Again, we were looking at Roger Steele's comments and making sure that those were all incorporated. With that, I will conclude my report. Our next meeting will be June 1st at 7:30.
Okay, thank you very much. 11.2 is Leading for Learning Committee. Ms. Wolf.
Thank you. Oh, I forgot what day we met. I'm sorry. Scroll down here. We met on May 4th. May the 4th be with you. At 4 p.m. in the virtual world. Mr. Phillips presented to us on a study with the Nebraska Department of Education and the Regional Education Laboratory. They are partnering together at Marzano Research to conduct a case study highlighting 5 select Rule 47 approved Career Academy programs in Nebraska, and GIPS is one of them. The case study will provide detailed examples of the steps taken to develop and implement each of the 5 career academies. The case study will serve as a resource for school and district leaders who are considering adopting or revising career and technical education or career academy programs in their communities as a means to support school and district improvement efforts. As a participating school in the study, we will receive a case study report and an infographic tailored to GIPS that explains the Career Academy. This infographic can be used to promote your Career Academy of students, families, businesses, and other community members. We already heard about the literacy specialist position, interventionist. So on to LSI impact. Dr. Palmer provided an update on the impact of Learning Sciences International Year 4 supports. The highlights of the impact included 138 total hours of professional learning and consulting over the course of the year. This time included a focus on leadership of high leverage instructional techniques for principals and coaches. All principals and instructional coaches participated in cohorts led by our demonstration school principals, coaches, and Dr. Tomjak, and conducted calibration walks in the virtual world, as well as engaged in professional learning to deepen their understanding of the instructional tools and techniques. Support was also extended beyond the demonstration school leaders to provide individual intentional coaching for implementation and monitoring of leadership action boards. This partnership has built capacity within our district and school leadership teams to further define and deepen understanding of the GIPS instructional focus. And we're going to have summer school offerings. The opportunities and experiences for students have expanded with the use of ESSER 2, Beyond School Bells, and Gear Up grants. There are still more experiences yet to be added, so please go to our website and /summer learning for more fun. ESSER 2 grant. Dr. Palmer concluded the meeting with a review of the ESSER grant requests submitted to NDE, and we applied for funding for the following allowable uses. We already heard about one in regards to the Academy Experiences Liaison. Then we want to promote students' support for students, which we heard about as well, that are medically fragile. To enhance professional learning, purchase professional learning and technology tools to maximize instruction in the virtual learning environment, provide letters training for 6 through 12 newcomers, teachers, provide trauma-informed instructor training or trainer of training for SECL coaches, and provide para training on interventions. da-da-da-da, was that my timer or something? To support virtual school staff, hire virtual school family liaison, as you saw in a previous presentation. And to support literacy, hire a Somali and Arabic family liaison to support 200 plus with parent-teacher meetings, resources, and testing accommodations, and staff for a Night Owl Academy, which I'm not a night owl. Purchase devices and other items related to support to upgrade our technology and internet needs, which we've heard about in the past. Support social emotional needs, and hire a summer academy social worker to support social emotional learning needs. And to address learning loss, purchase resources. We've heard about many of them throughout the past few months, to a grand total of $8,010,000 in grant funding that we have submitted for approval. And I'm really sad that we have not gotten to continue our grading for equity presentations, and I look forward to when we get to do that again. And our next meeting is going to be the 1st of June, virtual. I conclude my comments.
All right, thank you very much. The Personnel Committee, Dr. Burrows.
Yes. Dr. Palmer presented the plans for offering virtual school opportunities to students in grades 6 through 12. We heard about that tonight. Dr. Bills and Ms. Crow presented a proposal to hire reading interventionists using Title I funds to support students in grades K-3. That was discussed tonight. We just voted on that. Mr. Stelk reviewed an adjustment to be made to classified staff annual pay program. These are the individuals who would be paid a salary for the year rather than by the hour. There were times when the amount that had been paid was more or less than the amount that should have been paid, and so some adjustments needed to be made. And he has come up with a plan that will reduce the number and the amount of negative adjustments that have to be made during a period. He also updated the committee on the continued work with DMG and the academic return on investment and strategic budgeting. There'll be a meeting tomorrow to create the district communications supporting literacy as a strategic goal. On the 1st of June, the group will work on creating equity formulas for school counselors. And on the 4th of June, the group will work to establish the framework for conducting the academic return on investment analysis for the district literacy goal. The Personnel Committee reviewed the substitute teacher fill rate. The fill rate for the last 4 weeks has been at 86.92%. The end of the year historically has had a lower fill rate due to spring activities and staff using personal leave days before the end of the contract year. Year to date, the fill rate has been 89.57%. Staff and Teacher Appreciation Week was recognized during the week of May 5th. The staff received a banner signed by the superintendent and Board of Education members. Many of you did selfies with those. A gift mug and an inscription, and there was an ad in the Grand Island Independent. Dr. Grover just reported that the district had 54 certified contracts out, 25 positions remaining to be filled. As the school year ends, Human Resources will focus on the preparation for filling classified vacancies for the beginning of the 2021-22 school year. As Mr. Brown alluded a little earlier, we're having trouble in some of the areas, especially in food service. Getting people to apply for and accept and continue in those positions. It's a revolving door, and it has the food service director very concerned. Administrative staffing, the following staff's administrative vacancies have been filled. Dr. Evan Lee will be the CIA coordinator for the Fine Arts and Social Studies. That's a unique combination. Dr. Danielle Berman will be the CIA coordinator for math. Jordan Hubbard is moving as a special education supervisor. Gus Beam will be the principal for the Academy of Education, Law, and Public Safety. Opal Bentley will be the principal for Knickerham Elementary School, and Kathy Hirschman will be the Skills Academy coordinator. Still remaining to be filled is an Academy Experiences liaison and the Chief of Human Capital Management. Staff adjustments were reviewed and accepted as presented. We voted on those this evening in the consent agenda. Our next meeting is June 2nd at 8:30 a.m.
All right, Policy Committee, Mr. Brown.
I will be reporting from not one, but 2 months of meetings. Our first was April 12th. We did review the policy number 2150, the public complaint process. Also 2215, the board education student member. Both of those were reviewed. Also the 8457, the internet safety and acceptance to users. We discussed the co-op agreement with the surrounding schools participating in activities, and also students who are participating in the academies outside of the GIPS memorandum of understanding. So those are all under works. We're going to move on to the May 10th meeting. And the policies that were reviewed were 2150, the public complaint process again. 2215, the Board of Education student member again. And also the letter of intent for GIPS and CHI. We did look at the policy 2311, which is the board member vacancy, and also 3210, the superintendent qualifications, recruitment, and appointment. We discussed the policy of 4510, the naming of facilities, and also the MOU with the students, both in the academies and outside of our district. We also did have a quick discussion on the health education curriculum standard that was proposed by the state. With that, I conclude my report. We will be meeting, I believe, June 7th at 4:30 in Zoom.
All right, thank you very much. The Public Relations and Partnership Development Committee, Mrs. Albers.
GIPS was awarded a $200,000 community block grant. We're super excited about that. Grand Island Independent wrote a good informative article about the new strategic plan that included input with multiple people, and we continue work to communicate as we develop the strategic plan. We discussed the extracurricular long-range planning for excellence, and I have a lot of good feedback from a variety of different planning groups, and we're hoping to be done at the end of the summer. A couple ideas they came up with was a purple and white game to get middle school kids connected to our activities, different nights for each middle school, and there might be some fun opportunities to get some of our middle schoolers engaged as Islanders at an earlier age, even elementary school too. And also maybe some better communication or increased communication about some of the great extracurricular opportunities for our students. The district also shared information with families on how to provide input to NDE on the proposed health standards. And then we discussed graduation, and that the administration and communication team did a walk through Memorial Stadium for graduation. And we're going to keep our fingers crossed on the weather, which I seem to be watching obsessively these days. Also, for staff appreciation, there was a bunch of banners that we all signed, Board of Education and Dr. Grover, and those were given to different schools for Teacher Appreciation Week, Staff Appreciation Week. We talked about summer programs and protocols, and that there's now a landing page on the website for summer programs and protocols, and the pandemic team is working on those protocols. I think most of them have been announced. We've exceeded our growth of 2.5 on social media following. Kelly did another heartbeat piece with show choir with Dr. Grover, and the next episode will be with the GIPS Foundation. Standing Up to COVID with Nebraska Loves Public Schools for GISH students. You were one, right, Kendall? We're featured in Standing Up to COVID, a series by Nebraska Loves Public Schools, which will be released throughout May. And then the communication team is working on promoting these videos that feature stories and how brave our students were and how well they persevered COVID during the shutdown. The district has had over 99 media stories in the last month, and thank you to our media partners. That concludes my report. Our next meeting is June 4th at 8 a.m.
Okay, thank you very much. For the Grand Island Public Schools Foundation report, Mrs. Jurgens.
Thank you. The Foundation Board did not meet in April, but there are still some notes. The Foundation has awarded $503,258, as Mrs. Scalberg had mentioned earlier, which is super exciting. That was, as she had mentioned, over the course of 172 scholarships to 111 students. The foundation published the results of the staff and board campaign in a Facebook Live event on Monday, May 10th. This year, we had a record-breaking campaign raising over $102,714 for students. 80% of the GIPS staff gave to that campaign. The foundation has released the nomination forms for the 2021 Extraordinary Heroes in Education, which is the Teacher, Staff Member, Administrator of the Year. Forms are available online only with a deadline of May 21st. The corporate sponsor for this program is First National Bank. The foundation has released the application for the Dr. Eugene Miller Legacy Scholarship. This program is designed as a scholarship for GIPS staff members who are pursuing a graduate degree. Applications are online and close on May 31st. The fund will support up to a $1,000 award annually. The foundation board will have the following business for them at their May 19th, 2021 meeting. The agreement with the CHI Health St. Francis Foundation and Central Community College Foundation defining roles and partnership for fundraising and cash flow for the Grand Island Senior High Medical Academy project at CHI St. Francis Hospital. That is a mouthful. The donor restriction agreement, and then also being reviewed is to accept the final 2021 scholarship winners and awards. And the foundation board will meet via Zoom again on May 19th at 4:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you very much. For the governance committee, we met on May 5th, and we talked about the strategic plan and some of the workshops that as Board of Education members we need to have so that we can move that forward and approve that at our July board meeting. We also talked about several of the policies that Mr. Brown mentioned that were in the policy committee, provided some suggestions, and those are going back. And it reminded me that I owe Dr. Dexter some information, and I will get that to you. I apologize. It's sitting on my desk, and I look at it, and I wonder why it's there, so now I remembered. And we will meet again, I believe, on June 2nd. Okay, for the GNSA Legislative Committee report, there have been several, well, there was a revenue week in the legislature, and there were several key bills that we were watching, and we were fortunate that LB 408, LB 454, LB 364 all did not advance. We were very pleased with that. We were at one point excited that LB 132 passed because that's the bill where school funding is supposed to be looked at. However, in order to get it passed, they amended it to mean that no one else except for state senators will be on the review committee. So they will not get input from school finance or school experts. And so it's kind of a little bit of a bummer, but you know, maybe it'll still help them to go through it, educate themselves, and understand. It also has led to a unique item that during the discussions, public schools came under huge attack. Not favorable at all. It was really hard to watch sometimes. And it sounds like a particular senator from Omaha will be bringing forth the school scholarship fund again, and not sure what to expect. So it was mixed bag, I guess. But I'll say that, you know, we are like fortunate that things won't change this year, and hopefully with careful consideration, they'll be able to find a new path forward. So anything you want to add?
I just want to add to LB 364, there's probably going to be some interim studies, and I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it again. There's going to be interim studies this summer, and if we're in a position where they come close to Grand Island, we need to really be there and make sure we ask very pointed questions and kind of have an allied front, because this is going to come back, and it's going to be difficult to defeat it yet again. So it's a short session next year. but they can still get some work done. So
And it will probably be one of the first on the block
yeah,
at the
I think,
beginning of
I
next
think
year.
you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it'll probably be right on the first, so. And Bonnie's right. I don't know how many of you listened to any of those hearings, but it was hard to listen to. They were really, really hard on Grand Island, not Grand Island, but just on public schools in general. And I mean, a year of a pandemic, they're being particularly hard on us. So we just need to hold our heads up and keep doing the good work and just rest and get ready for the next session.
And I would say that there was a lot of misinformation.
Yes.
And so I would hope that that's because of just a lack of knowledge, but a lot of misinformation, which was disappointing, so. All right, and thank you to our lobbyist, Angela, for being our eyes and ears on the ground and keeping us informed. It's a huge help. All right, so the NASB monthly update is attached. You should have all received the email, and there's a small video. Some of the legislative bills were talked about. Marcia Herring talked about some of the upcoming training, so be sure to take a look at that. All right, we have a need for an executive session for the purpose of the superintendent evaluation, and because it is in the best interest of the public to discuss this matter in closed session, I would need a recommendation. Mrs. Albers.
I recommend we go to closed session to discuss the superintendent contract evaluation. Sorry.
That's okay. And is there a second? Second was, I think second was Mr. Brown. Is that right? Any discussion? Please vote. Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
No, I do